Hi guys, I'm James and this is Meatster, and today I wanted to bring you a different sort of video than my normal food videos, and that is something close to my heart actually, beer, and specifically no alcohol or low alcohol beer. And actually today we start with no alcohol beer, and that's largely because it's only about 10:30 in the morning, so I'm not one to pour vodka on my cereal, and I don't really fancy drinking any alcohol at this time of day. So, what do I mean by no alcohol beer? Well, I don't mean Beck's Blue, because let's face it, that is dog wee. And I mean that sincerely. I did try one once and I spat it out. It was foul. No, I mean real beer that just happens to be non-alcoholic. Now, of course you might say that how can it be beer without alcohol? Well, look, the way I think of beer is it's something that makes you have a better time than you were going to. It's something that makes, you know, a party and a barbecue, and it should taste good, it should make you feel good. So personally, I think you don't always need alcohol for those situations to happen. And more, especially as I'm getting older, I find I'd like to keep my liver functioning and my health good, and I enjoy going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, and I can't do that if I've been drinking every night. So it's as simple as that. If you think that beer should only have alcohol, then maybe this isn't for you, but if you're looking for a different way to enjoy beer, then stick around. As I said, we're starting with 2 non-alcoholic beers today, but my definition for these reviews going forward, the criteria that I will have is any beer under 4% is fair game, but definitely I've seen the range of beers in that category under 4% grow from a measly few, probably just 5 years ago, to a whole plethora, a whole brewer's yard full of beer. I can't think of the right thing to say there, but that'll do. So, I'm thirsty. These lights are making me sweat, even though they're LED, and they shouldn't make me sweat. So, what have I got today? Well, I have, from the most famous craft brewer of the modern age, BrewDog. Can we call it craft anymore? It's a big business, I don't know. But from the people that brought you Punk IPA and Dead Pony Club and all the others, Nanny State alcohol-free hoppy ale. And I think hoppy ale, it's actually a really dark, reddy brown colour. It's a little bit like an old man's ale. On first looks alone, it does look sort of like beer. There's a bit of froth at the top. There aren't many bubbles, but they are slowly coming out the bottle and the glass, sorry. It looks the part. So to me, what the most important things about beer are the aroma, the taste, the mouthfeel, and the length of the finish, the length of the taste. How long does it stick around in your mouth and make you feel good? So let's give these all a score out of 10, okay? And going forward, if this takes off, maybe we'll end up with a whole list of beers. Oh, it does have a lovely sort of perfumed aroma. It's a little bit of maltiness, and then definitely tropical fruit. To me, it's like an Indian mango, you know, those orange ones with the really sort of ripe flesh. And a little bit of passion fruit as well. Even a bit of banana. It's a real sort of tropical fruit mix, but there's also something sort of more floral about it. Overall, this aroma is lovely, and it really makes you think that you're about to drink, you know, an alcoholic beer. So let's start by giving that a 7.5 out of 10, and that's a pretty good score, I would say. Right, so let's go for the flavour. Now, this is maybe the most important criteria. Well, first of all, it's refreshing, but that's because it's cold, so can't give it a score for that. It's crisp, almost lip smacking, but the taste is not quite as interesting as the smell. It's it loses a lot of that aroma as you drink it, and You do get a sort of flavour of tropical fruit. I definitely get the mango. There's a certain sweetness to it, so it's not unpleasant at all. But there's also a large amount of bitterness. So obviously they're using a lot of hops in here. And if we just read off of this bottle, there are 5 different hops here. So we've got Centennial, Amarillo, Columbus, Cascade, and Simcoe. So let's keep those in mind going forward as we compare other beers. The aroma is amazing on this beer, but the flavour is a little bit less powerful, a little bit less complex, so I'm going to give that 6 out of 10. I think that's respectable, but not something, you know, fantastic. But onto the mouthfeel. It's certainly crisp and refreshing. It doesn't feel like an alcoholic beer as such. It's a little bit too light in the mouthfeel. Now, I'm not saying that you have to always try and replicate a true beer. You know, this is going for its own style. I'd say the mouthfeel is also a 6 out of 10. It's definitely above average for a non-alcoholic beer. You know, if Beck's Blue's mouthfeel is about -5, it's a hideous, devilish, disgusting beer. This is definitely respectable. And now, on to the next and last criteria, that's the finish. Well, as I've been talking to you, I've been having to sip it over and over again to remind myself of the various flavours and the mouthfeel and the flavour. So I'd say that the finish is pretty poor actually. And I remember when I first poured this out for my grandmother, she was looking for a stout in the fridge and we couldn't find one. So I gave her a Nanny State, which I found highly amusing. She is my nanny. So, you know, that's just a little joke for me really. Well, she said, "Oh, it tastes like water." And I hung my head in shame because I'd been telling her how non-alcoholic beers were ready to rock her world. Well, she wasn't happy, so I'm not happy either. That's a 3 out of 10. Overall, I'd pick it up over a Beck's Blue. Let's move on because Nanny State is good, but it's not great. So we're looking for something else. And now we have, let's be honest, the heavyweight of the non-alcoholic world, which is the Big Drop Brewing Co. And if I've had a few normal beers first, I can never say that, but I can right now. It's before midday. I haven't been drinking anything else, as you know. And look at that. That does look like a real beer. The colour is wonderful, golden. And this is described as a pale ale. It's also non-alcoholic, way below 0.5%. First thing I'm going to say is that it has a slightly unfair advantage over the Nanny State. And one of the things I love about Nanny State actually, and the reason I do keep it in the house, is it's very low in calories. That bottle is about 28 calories, I believe. Big Drop Brewing Co, on the other hand, they're a bit more generous with the calories, and for this bottle we're looking at roughly 65-ish calories, so not far off. Three bottles of Nanny State per bottle of pale ale here from the Big Drop Brewing Co, which is why often, especially earlier in the week, I stick to only a lower calorie beer like Nanny State. The other thing is that this has lactose in it. Nanny State, I believe, does not, and I'm just double checking that. Otherwise, this whole premise of mine will fall apart. Yeah, water, malted barley, wheat, rye, yeast, and hops. And this is water, barley, wheat, lactose, hops, lime, and yeast. So they're playing a bit of a game with us here. They're adding things. Now, I think that's acceptable because you want to make a drink that people really want to enjoy, and I do know from a bit of research that lactose and or oats are often used to add a bit more weight to these beers. But, right, let's go for the aroma. Much more muted. It does smell more like beer, it smells more like a pub, it's got much more of a malty smell. I'm actually not sure what hops are in here. It doesn't want to tell us. But on the aroma, there's also a sort of yogurty, yeasty smell. It's nowhere near as pleasant as Nanny State. So if that was a 7.5, this is a 5 out of 10 for aroma. Now, completely different types of beer. All they have in common is being non-alcoholic. One is a pale ale, one is not, and they will appeal to different people. The taste is a lot more muted here. Now it says they've added lime. You don't get a flavour of lime, but there's a little bit of acidity, which is quite nice actually. It sort of cleans the palate. It's not lip smacking, but that's down to the weight. The flavours, I think actually you could drink more of this in that sense, because it doesn't have massive flavours that you're going to get tired of in the end. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for flavour. It really does taste like a muted pale ale. It does taste like a real beer. Now on to mouthfeel. This is going to be a high score, I feel. If we're comparing non-alcoholic to non-alcoholic and we gave a relatively low score for mouthfeel with the BrewDog, with this one, with the much higher calorie count and with the lactose in there, it's really a big, bold beer, mouth-coating beer. And it's, having drunk quite a few of these, it's a lot more filling to drink as well, so that's something to take into account. But just based on a taste, the mouthfeel, considering it's non-alcoholic, that is a 7.5 out of 10. It does a great job of making you feel that you're drinking real beer. You know, it's got weight and heart and heft. Delicious. No need to feel ashamed in the pub if you're drinking this one. On to the finish. It's, as I said, it's not so much about sort of big fruity hoppy flavours here. It's a much more muted, subdued beer. So when it comes to finish, there are no massive flavours to carry through in the first place. But I think this would be a 6 out of 10 because with that weight, it coats your mouth and the flavour of the beer does stick around. So, as you can see, these are our first two beers that we're testing. I've just thrown out scores. They're more relative to each other because over time I'm sure we're going to blow these out of the water, or we're going to find out that actually these were the best of the bunch. We don't know yet. But one thing I would say is if you're in the market for non-alcoholic beer, then these both are going to serve you well. Stock your fridge up and enjoy, and don't feel like you're missing out. Excuse me. Filming a beer review and trying not to burp is, well, I failed, didn't I? So, cheers. Oh, that's good.